Welcome in to the Wednesday Hump Day edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast, June 28th. Thomas Miller, thank you for being here. Would you guys like to explore something provocative? You want to put your thinking caps on for Hump Day today and explore something that I've been just scratching my little head about because something doesn't make sense here. And it's triggered off of our first aspect of the day over our heads, which is the moon entering Scorpio at 4:55 this morning Eastern Time. And before we spring off of that and talk about what we're going to discuss here, at least for the first part, is the other aspect is at 9:42 this evening Eastern Time. So we're waxing into this all day. The sun trining Saturn in retrograde. That's a big deal too. We'll save some time for that. But here's what I'm exploring. So there's something in ancient astrology called the Via Combusta. It's also in horary. Robert talks about it extensively in the horary course because it's one of William Lilly's considerations before judgment in horary, that you have to consider that the moon is not in the Via Combusta. It's called the fiery way in Latin, and it is in the range between 15 degrees Libra and 15 degrees Scorpio. So when the moon is between those degrees, you're not supposed to answer a horary question. But then the conversation pivots to say it only applies to horary and you don't apply it to a natal chart. Then I got to thinking, why not? I mean, if something was there that prevents you from asking the chart a question, all of a sudden you're going to remove it from natal astrology interpretation? Okay. But then I went back and revisited everything about the Via Combusta. And basically, if you want to just boil it down, it's because the sun is in fall in Libra and the moon is in fall in Scorpio. A couple of other things I found related to it. Number one, of course, ancient astrologers were very concerned and cautious and protective against black magic. Anything supernatural, paranormal, etc. They were like all about not it. Well, Halloween comes during the Via Combusta. And I know a lot of you are saying, but that's the best holiday of the year. And I love Halloween. I'm born 4 hours before it, 3.5. Don't tell me about Halloween. But one other thing I saw was that there was a cluster of fixed stars. And I don't do fixed stars, and I don't pretend to be any kind of expert at it, and I'm not going to go digging into it. But supposedly there was a cluster of malefic fixed stars in the early degrees of Scorpio when tropical Western astrology was established, and that the precession of the equinoxes has moved them. I don't know, but supposedly those are the reasons why the ancients acknowledged this little 30-degree piece of real estate in the chart as being the fiery way, and why William Lilly said, don't read a horary if the moon is there. And then I also saw somebody commenting that if you have the sun in there or either your ascendant in there as well, that it kind of co-applies. Well, here's my thought, and you guys can opine on this and send me a SpeakPipe message if you have thoughts around this, either from personal experience or just what makes sense to you. Nowhere else in astrology is something applied to one thing and not another. And I know, like my podcasting partner, Robert Glasscock on Old Soul, New Soul, doesn't use Chiron. I use Chiron. This might be another where I'm going, you don't have 4 out of 10 of your planets in the Via Combusta. Let me speak to this one. I don't know about this idea of not applying it to natal astrology or transit astrology, like where we are right now. It's there until Thursday about noon Eastern Time. I'm going to put this in the same category in my file as the moon wobble. And we've had moon wobbles come and go since we've been observing it, and we're all still here. Yet there are some very significant dates, including 9/11, the Oklahoma City bombing, the U.S. coal bombing, etc., that occurred during that window. So we'll just keep our observation eyes open. But if you have any thoughts on should we acknowledge something that is in horary but not in natal, not in transit, should we revisit this in our minds? Should we be incorporating this? Might the ancients have known something that we shouldn't wipe off the map? So if you wanted to play with it, you might observe the next 2 days, because basically between now and noon Thursday, the moon will be in that bracket of 0 to 15 degrees Scorpio as it transits. And also, let's not forget this water trine as the sun trines Saturn tonight at 9:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturn, of course, in retrograde in Pisces. The sun in Cancer, this aspect is happening at 7 degrees 6 minutes. The moon, interestingly, speaking of, will be at 9 degrees Scorpio during this aspect. So that puts it within an orb of this, certainly not direct, but definitely part of this grand trine. So factor that in if you're observing the Via Combusta as well. Now, where I am, when the sun trines Saturn, exactly, that puts the sun in the 6th house and Saturn in the 2nd house. Now, that's just a point of origination, but it brings an interesting seasoning to this, doesn't it? This is about work and money, and that Via Combusta moon is up there in the 10th house. So this is all about starting a project that is close to your heart, that has intuitive inspirations, Cancer and the moon, and is such a project that if you continue the incubation of it, that it will last a long time, Saturn, and will provide money for you for a long time. I know a couple of people in our Facebook group who are doing just this. They are on the verge of some new businesses, etc., and new ventures and new mailbox money kind of projects. Well, keep going on it. In fact, you could use this grand trine, you could use today to do some really good internal work about just getting further inspiration about it. So don't think about it from your head. There's nothing related to the head in this chart. Do it all in your heart. Do it in your soul. Do it from your intuition. Wow, this is really cool. I think I'm going to think about this for my own self. Pardon me while I go do just that. You guys have a great hump day. I'll see you back tomorrow. Love you.